welcome to another episode of Don't Panic, episode Griffin, aka Hermann Studios.
The Hermann is what they call
Hermann?
it. Well,
The Hermann.
it's Herb-man, like the Herb-man.
Of course it is.
No, it
No, it is.
completely isn't.
No, it is, guys.
No.
Guys, you heard it here first. Yeah, as in, guys, my tutors who have to watch this. Before we get into questions, have you been? I was going to say what you've been up to. How was the Japan trip?
The Japan trip was incredible. It is like the greatest place, I reckon, like on earth. And it's just really creative and inspiring, and it's just a very interesting place to travel. So yeah, it was always great. I went for the first time last year, and I just had to go back like as soon as possible. And I get 2 weeks a year off, and I picked those 2 weeks to have in Japan again.
I'm surprised. Well, I mean, I haven't been in so much of my stuff is inspired by it, and I feel like it makes sense that a lot of your work would be inspired by that stuff as well.
Completely, yeah.
It's kind of a very swag place for designers outside of all the other European places that people like to go to.
100%, yeah.
I didn't know, what are you doing for work? Like, I know that you run Hermann, but what are you doing outside of that?
I didn't work after uni for a bit, and I had a bit of time to chill during COVID, and then I applied for a job at Globe as a skateboard designer because I thought
nuts.
It would just be like a pretty cool job just to be in that particular kind of culture, because I do skate a bit. And I applied for that job, and I got the job, and then they started to restructure their company, and the art director from Globe left and went to MAP, which is like a cycling apparel brand.
Yeah.
And he pretty much just poached me over to MAP, and that's where I've been for a year and a half now.
Yeah, wow. I thought you were going to say that you became the art director for Globe, but you went.
No. I'm extremely far off being an art director. You just sort of have to. I'm still a junior. I probably will be for at least another 6 months.
I mean, that's mad. Projection-wise, that's so fucking exciting. Segue, don't panic, but I'm going to ask you a few questions. First of all, have you always been a creative person?
It's a very good question. I think that, from a very early age, I've been plagued with the, creative bone, which is a bit of a, I don't know, it's good and it's bad. I grew up in a very creative household, and my parents did the same course that I did at Swinburne.
Oh, really?
And my older sister also did design at RMIT. And it kind of got to a point when my parents were like, you should actually try and do something a bit different, because it's kind of a bit too much of a projection. But I actually didn't really have a choice in my own mind, because it's just kind of who I've become and who I am.
You got brought up in it, man.
And
it's for someone that doesn't have a family that resonates with creative stuff. I would have loved for them to be able to do it, and it would have made me do it. I feel like, it's so interesting. I feel like a lot of the time when you do have parents that do something, you drift away from it. It's kind of a blessing in disguise that you could kind of have, good input from your family, because my parents have no fucking idea.
Yeah,
my grandparents have no idea.
No, completely. But I also just think that maybe it was just that I've always been a very visual person, and my mind has always been exploring those areas of art and design and creativity. Even when I was really young, I was just always looking and thinking and remembering things in images, but not. I was more kind of a visual learner than anything else, which is a pretty common trait amongst creative people in a more practical kind of field. But I just kind of think that it all just happened. I didn't even have to really think about who I was or what I wanted to be. It just kind of happened. But in that same question, it is such a broad place to be in the creative industry, which is also a really good thing.
I that you can be really broad with comms design. That's why I chose comms, because you don't have to pick. Yeah,
it's the best course to do, I think, if you don't really know what it is that you want to do within the industry. But it's just so broad.
Well, you moving on to clothing, and then I've also interviewed Prophecy Girl, who's done.
Oh yeah, sick.
That was the last one, and they've done music production and performing, and they did the Swinburne course.
Really?
Same thing.
Wow. Yeah, they've been killing it recently.
Yeah, and I feel like there's such a common ground for people that have got like the backing graphic design, and then when they want to pursue something else, they know how to make it look good. They know how to communicate it to like people, their fans, whoever they want.
Yeah.
A funny story you were talking about when you were creative. I remember as a kid as well, we had, what was it? Not earn and learn, the like learning how to cross the road. You had to like build your own car out of like cardboard.
Yeah.
And to like go, I think you had to go, this is like public primary school, you had to go to like a police station or like a traffic control place, and you like walked over this miniature fake like roads and stuff that they'd set up in their back area. And I wanted to paint like a tiger onto this box, and it was the first time where I like, could see like the tiger on the box like finished and painted, but I obviously couldn't replicate it. But I was like, how come I can see this on the box so easily? I thought it was so easy. I feel like that was one of the first times I realized that I was like a visual. I get it.
It's just part of who we are, I guess.
The way
as cringe and pretentious as it
sounds. No, it is
sounds.
though. My brain turns off with numbers.
Yeah. I mean, like, a really cringe way to put it, and the most pretentious way to say it is, I am the art, and the art is me.
Period.
You heard it first here.
Guys.
Guys.
We're getting some crazy quotes to put down, some poetry, some slap poetry.
Slam it down, quote it, write it, learn it, love it, live it.
Culture Kings, don't put it on the top.
Baby.
Has clothing and graphic design, or just graphic inspired, oh no, what am I fucking saying? Was clothing and graphic inspired garments always the plan? When did you realize this is something you felt passionately about?
It's really interesting because I didn't really ever think about doing clothing design or like anything in that hemisphere. It was just, I was at RMIT doing design. It was all what I call 2D. So posters, album covers, or, like branding, things like
stuff.
that. And like, I really do kind of enjoy that. And I went to exchange in Chicago at the School of the Art of Design, Chicago. And I was just continuing on my path of branding and publication and design and all those kind of different parts of design. And then I actually like met a few really talented fashion designers who were doing really beautiful like hand painted and screen prints, and it was very graphic. And all these people that I had met in America actually had a pretty significant following, and they're actually like able to turn their designs into a tangible, physical, tactile product.
Amazing. It always feels nice to be able to have that, like, get it off the screen.
Completely. And I looked at it and I felt it and I said that is like, I just love product. And then I came back to Australia and I had like $100 in my account and I spent it all on an airbrush.
Oh, wow.
And then I started painting like my own clothes for me to wear. And then my friends would ask if they could purchase these things, and then it just happened.
Over time, yeah. I remember was there stuff before the hats, or was the hats the first go for selling to people?
The hats were more of a sort of consumerist kind of
I feel like the easiest way to sell stuff.
Yeah, and then the hats just became the cringiest thing. Everyone started doing it, and I just
it's upsetting.
It wasn't upsetting. It was actually like a form of flattery in itself, but it just kind of really proved to me that I don't want to do that kind of thing again, because it was like I was pumping them out, and it was a bit different. But it
was good. I there was definitely a time where it was like they looked similar enough but different enough where you could be like, oh, where'd you get that from? And then people would really like it. And you didn't see them in like a big mass like collective for a while. You saw them more like this suburb area, like north side stuff. You'd see them at unis, and then like post COVID you saw them like quite a heavy amount. The O'Cray massacre kind of.
The O'Cray massacre, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that was a lot.
Yeah.
Swag, super swag. I'm glad. I was curious because, doing graphic design, it's interesting to see what direction people take it, or like where are they now type deal.
And like I kind of described it to people as I was doing like wearable design, because I don't really, and the thing that I would do is I wouldn't ever design things for like people. I would just design clothes for like the most possible, like the most confident version of myself.
Yeah, nice.
So I would design things that I would wear, and it wouldn't ever be what I would actually wear, but it was what I wished I had the confidence to wear.
That's great.
And then it just obviously that person in my mind that is the best possible version of
Who's
me.
the one like producing this stuff as well?
But also the one that actually wears crazy stupid stuff, and it's not boring. It's graphic. It's screaming at you. It's all over the place, and that's kind of what Hermann's become, but a bit more subdued. But still, kind of that's the kind of working formula that I follow. Yeah.
I love that. I love that insight. Like that's I feel like designers oftentimes like kind of split who they are and then like what they create a lot of the time. It's sometimes easier that way to create the work, and also like if you don't like it, it's that person made it as well.
Completely.
You also studied comms design at RMIT. How would you rate that experience? Can be like a percentage or like a short form or one word.
I mean, I would rate it 10 out of 10, A++. No, I don't really know how to rate it. I think that I think it was the perfect course for me, just considering that it just trained you how to be a designer and how to be a creative. And even if it wasn't design, it was a lot of people do the course to become to then move into advertising, or it's just kind of, I think the most important thing that I learned there was working with other people, and all the teachers are amazing, and they sort of put you in a situation which is not just like you read a book, but you actually create briefs and then you present to like a hypothetical client, which is the teacher half the time. And that process is very, very like important to have, especially before you go and actually like commit to choosing your job, because it's really important to understand, or am I actually like good at this? Or is this what I thought
it was going to be?
Yeah, because I kind of feel like people do design in Melbourne because they think it's cool and it's easy.
Yeah, I know.
It's not. It's not either of those two things.
I feel like RMIT is good in the sense that it's, for this course, very different to like art courses. There's not as many, I don't know, I've found people that have done art or fine arts maybe at Melbourne and stuff, and they don't really make friends too easily. But our course, like everyone is so lovely. By like the end of year one, all the people that actually don't want to do it are gone.
Yeah, they've already left and realised that it's not for them.
And so like from year two onwards, it's just great. The tutors start to like become your friends. It's like a super collaborative kind of environment. They have like, I completely agree. I feel super at home when I'm there. I don't know if you had this experience where maybe like the more Hermann side of you would come out when you got to university. The moment you started to get to collaborate, that confidence was there, more so than when you'd be maybe at home working on your stuff.
Yeah, 100%. And it's really important to have those experiences, because it kind of, like, you actually don't really realise it until you start working in the industry, but a big part of it is actually other people. It is like you can't really like be your own entity in an office environment. But then like if you want to be your own boss, which I guess I am in Hermann, that's a different thing. But it isn't really by choice. I can't get an office and hire people just yet. I'm kind of scared of doing that.
Yeah,
but
I think that's very fair.
You know that it's important.
It's a process. I was debating with Isabel about the fact that it's like I would consider Hermann like freelance. She's like, no, it's not freelance. I'm like, it doesn't work. It's not a corporate or a conglomerate thing. It's still freelance. She's like, freelance is like when you have your own like business. And I'm like, that's what that is. She's like, shut the fuck up, you're right, I guess. So then we sat in the car for silence for about 5 minutes.
Yeah, I don't actually know if I would call it freelance, but I do understand what you mean. I think it's
in the weird in between right now, I feel like.
Yeah, and
it's too big to be.
Yeah, well, I think it's still very small, and I would love it to be big. And it's kind of just like my pride and joy. It doesn't feel like work in any way to me. It kind of actually is the opposite. It's what I do when I'm actually sick of work.
Off topic, compliment for you. I've showed your website at Capstone to a bunch of like 3rd and 4th year university guys, and everyone finds your website very sexy.
Really?
Very sexy.
I don't like I actually made that website just when I finished my course.
I feel like the content also helps a lot.
Yeah, true.
Like the layout's nothing like, obviously it's still it's a working layout, but like the color scheme, the way of like using like the cutouts, like the fact that it's mixed media.
Yeah.
Mixed media, I think, is what makes it like really hot.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I appreciate that.
Of course, I'm always getting feedback from the uni kids still working it out. What did I write here? I was gonna say you graduated around the beginning of COVID. How was that like final year impacted? You can be like brief with it.
Yeah, I'll be short and sweet, but yeah, it was pretty compromised. It was right at the peak of 2020 when that was all getting very restricted and locked down. So everything was online, and I think the hardest part of it with design, and I think it was one of the only courses where it really impacted this part of it, is like just scale. Because if you're looking at a screen, and my capstone project was these giant like wheat paste posters,
Right.
and people were looking at my like final products on a screen.
On a screen, yeah.
This big.
Yeah.
And it looked interesting, but to have it in the classroom blown up in the exhibition, that would have been a totally different experience. So I guess that as well. But just also like working with people and getting like feedback from teachers, them saying, like with design, you have to actually use your hands and point at a color and, you know, like use your bits. And it doesn't work.
I think my favorite classes are after year one. I was my 2020 was my first year, and so that was my introduction to that course being online, which sucked. And then second and third year, because I took a break, and then it made it a bit easier. And I all of a sudden started going towards like the publication, like zine making, Print's Not Dead with like Nicola Hardy.
Cool.
I don't know if you had them or she was there then, but they all about like printing press, small print press. Got to go to newsrooms, got to like go to markets and stuff. Stuart Geddes.
Yeah, he's great.
Amazing. I just had him last semester, and we got to sell our books at the NGV, and I was like, wow, I really, really love physical like stuff, like product, like you were
Tactical,
saying.
yeah. It's also really important to have those moments of you actually do need to go and experience and be a part of, and I feel as if for a lot of people,
It's like a community.
yeah, and it was hard during COVID. It really sucked actually, but it wasn't the end of the world, and it was fine. I just feel as if, also feel like people just didn't maybe work as hard, because
Same for year one. No, everyone was, and for us we didn't know anyone, so no one turned the cameras on. So it would have been fine if we kind of knew each other, but it was just dead.
Yeah, I remember one time in like the morning, like the giant speeches that they had in the morning, I was in bed and I was in my underpants.
It is lovely that you could do it. I did it too.
No, but here what happened in front of the whole cohort.
Oh no.
And I went to answer a question about Bauhaus design because I love the Germans. Anyway, I unclicked my microphone, I thought, to answer this question. But I accidentally hit the video, so I was on mute, and the camera was here, and it was just
You were just cam girl.
going right up on my hairy chest, and and then I just went whoop, turned it off, and then everyone saw, and it was actually hilarious, but it was pretty scarring.
That's a beautiful send off. I don't know what you're talking about. Fuck. I don't miss that. I miss it's like I can imagine the meeting as well. It's like, how's everyone going? Like, oh, this is the updates. I don't want to move on. I don't want to talk about it too much. Oh, looks like Griffin has a question. Griffin, your mic's muted. Griffin, we can see your tits.
Yes, completely. It was humorous, but very humiliating.
It was human, bro. It was human. It was fine.
It was very human.
During your studies, how much of your like work at uni mirrors what you do now, or is it like completely different?
I don't know. I just think I can't really. I remember all my projects pretty fondly. I think that I do have a very distinctive style, and it's pretty with my more like refined design stuff. I kind of like look back on it as just like the building blocks, which is a very like boring answer, but I feel as if I just kind of have that sensibility of hierarchy and color and like distinctive typefaces, or photography mixed with painting mixed with graphics. But I think for the most part I was just trying to keep it really simple and to not like over pollute what I was learning. So just really stripping everything back to really just graphic shapes.
Were they looking similar? I feel like a lot of the time people, me personally, make each project tends to be really different from the next one, just for the sake of experimenting.
Yeah. I think that I actually did the opposite of that,
I wish I could.
but I definitely did a couple of projects that were influenced by one another. But I always, once I did something and I thought I did it well, I ticked it off.
Yeah.
And then I would only ever get really excited and driven, and I'd have that spark when there was a new program to use, or doing some 3D, or doing some painting, or something like a weird like heat transfer press, or just trying new things or a new style, or like even just trying to work with really bad colors. That's like a nice challenge.
I think that's a challenge. Yeah.
Like brown and pink. Just like trying
to make it
work. And it can work, but it's hard.
It's I always associate brown and pink with like Tyler the Creator's. When was that? The Igor stuff.
Yeah, of
He used
course.
so much of that, and like pale blue.
Yeah.
You currently operate under the name Hermann Studios. How did that name come to be? We kind of talked about it a little bit, but
Well, I've got a question for you. Do you remember my old name? Starts with an M. Mango.
No, because Mango Man. Yeah. Of course. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, you're right. I completely forgot that there was a brand change.
Yeah, well, that was what it was. It was supposed to just happen, I think, and it was kind of like I was Mango Man, and then it was Herman. So there was like a bit of like a two-name thing. But I just thought that the old name was a bit juvenile, and I wanted to make it more professional.
No, Hermann Studios is hot. I liked the change.
Yeah, I had a big piece of paper with hundreds of different like words and clever things, but Hermann is a German title. It's like Hermann Hesse is a good author that I like, but because I think the main reason is just it's a very nice word, but also it's because my clothes they're kind of supposed to be like all encompassing of everyone, gender, everything. So it was like Herman was her and man, like unisex. But I understand that there's more genders than his and her.
Yeah.
But it was
all inclusive. I get it. Yeah.
Exactly. It was just supposed to be a bit of like a like all encompassing.
That's smart. Also, from a design point of view, H is such a nice.
Yeah.
Like even a solid just H looks great already. Also, like the weight that you chose for it was really nice. The lowercase for the other thing. What else was I thinking about? Also, like it sounds, because you said it's German. It also sounds how Bauhaus sounds nice. Like Hermann sounds nice for that same kind of reason.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like familiar enough to like Western ears, but also a little bit different. How difficult was it crafting your brand identity for Hermann Studios? Could you walk us through the design process?
Interesting. I don't like my process is very kind of, it's a strict formula for me, but it's also the word strict kind of implies that it's not fun, but it's only fun to me because it's just very enjoyable. I'm constantly just like absorbing everything around me, whether it's like movies, books, or publications, or other brands, or just always looking at everything in the world and trying to just get inspiration from that.
It's good to pinch stuff.
Always pinching like a color or a texture or a style of fit, or even just like one graphic. Oh, like I kind of like that style. I'm gonna try and do that.
Try to replicate it, and then like tweak it.
Yeah, as I said though, it's always just sometimes I don't even think about what I'm designing because it's kind of like a form of like therapy. I just get on the computer and I play some music and I just can't, like my subconscious kind of soars. And I think if you actually look at my designs a bit more closely, it's like, why did you do like a penguin with like it doesn't make any sense. It's very abstract and it's a bit playful and
it's super pop art in some ways. It's really nice.
So I think that it doesn't, like a bit of it is conceptual, but a lot of that kind of happens afterwards, and it's more of like a visceral feeling that I want to like bring out in my clothes. Like in the process is kind of that. It's just like an all-encompassing thing. If that makes sense.
It does. No.
Yeah.
I think that for this question particularly, it's good for people that already know what's going on. Might be a bit harder to understand if you're not in the know-how at all. But yeah, it is everyone's design process is so different. And like the journey, I'm sure, for any small business is going to be kind of not as traditional because they're all like really unique. Anyway, my opinion.
Yeah.
I can only
No,
assume.
completely. I definitely agree.
So, your favorite project so far can be a specific clothing line launch, can be a mural, which I saw that you did, which was really cool.
Yeah, I actually found this question hard to think about because I find it all pretty enjoyable in its own way. But when you said,
Maybe proud, I guess.
yeah, but when you said could be a mural, it definitely is
That
that. I did a giant mural for a design agency called the Royals in Cremorne, and they've got a giant warehouse, and I painted like the whole width of the agency, which was like a giant wall, and that was the most childlike fun experience ever because I had all my friends help me paint it, and I like painting with rollers.
It looked, from my perspective, because I was already following you, and then when I saw that, I was like, oh no shit, this guy does like more than like clothes, and it kind of clicked on me, like the design aspect of it kind of translated a bit more because you see so many people making clothes and stuff. But the moment I saw you doing a mural, I was like, he's made it. Like doing a mural seems so intense and exciting and like an adult world thing to do. But the way that you did it and just like people, that's going to be there. Like people are going to be working with that. That's huge. It's your stuff. I don't know. That was the first like time it really clicked. I was like, I would be so excited if I got to do something like that it's there, like more permanent.
No, like it's an awesome process, and yeah, I've done quite a few. Even when I was like 15 and 16, I'd paint my parents' like carport and just paint anything that I could. I was even painting other things that I wasn't supposed to, but it was kind of that I was obsessed with it.
Did you do painting at uni?
No, I kind
The
of
elective?
Yeah, like I did painting in America in Chicago.
It hurt, the one at uni.
Yeah,
It's painful.
yeah, it's pretty painful, but I also I don't know about you, but I wanted to go to art school, but I just couldn't do it because I just thought it might destroy what I love.
There's I started doing all this originally because I like drawing, and I got like praised for drawing so much, and then I stopped, and I was too scared of seeing like the disparity if I'd gotten worse, so I stopped drawing. And so instead of me just normally drawing from like ages 5 until whenever, and I would have progressively got better, I just stopped and sat on my like laurels knowing that I'd been told I was good.
Yeah, exactly.
And then comes like high school, and I'm like, okay, I know I'm not really good at drawing anymore, but I need to find something I can do. And Catholic boys' schools love to pump architecture.
Oh my God, they love it.
Viscom is just architecture.
They love it, yeah.
So I was like, oh, this is what I want to do. Totally not my own idea. And it's like a ruler, so I could draw that. And I was always good at visual, so I was like, I can see the perspective really easily, so I'll just draw this. And then come towards the end, I was like, oh, I guess I'll try and do this. The person said to try and do interior design. Got into interior. Did not like it.
Yeah.
Really fine artsy. Made me like kind of hate working with stuff. Took a year off and then reapplied and got into the dream, the first preference, comms design. And it's nuts. I'm so glad.
Yeah, it's an awesome course, and I'm really glad that you're doing it. There's actually a lot of people that I know that did interior design and fucking hated it, and then ended up doing comms afterwards or doing something completely different. That's like the opposite of anything creative. Yeah.
Yeah, interior design ripped my soul away. I had to one of my first projects. They picked a random animal fear or insect or whatever it was, and you had to design an interior for them. Someone got a dog, someone got a fox, someone got a cat, and I got a silkworm. I got a fucking silkworm.
How do you design the interior of a silkworm?
Well, I found out very quickly that silkworms live in captivity. They are not in the wild at all anymore. And so I was like, they're already set up. They already have a space. They can't live outside of that space. So anything I designed for them will kill them, but it'll look nice.
That is hilarious.
And I was like, I did that, and I had to stand in front of my peers with this A0 poster of a fucking a silkworm enclosure. And after that, and after they tore into me for like 20 minutes and then gave me a good score, I was like, this isn't for me.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do this anymore.
This is not for me. God damn.
I like printing. I was like, I really like using the printers. And I had someone that had come from comms design. And I was like, oh, what's it like? And they're like, oh, it's not for me. And then they listed all the things they did. And I was like, that's exactly what I do.
Yeah, right.
I was like, okay, we need to switch. And so I did. I'm so glad.
Switch gears and you're in the autobahn now.
Yeah, I know this is weird. I know the guy, we were talking about this the other day. My friends with someone whose dad sold Autobahn. He like owned that.
Really?
Yeah, and I was like, what? And then we were debating if he was a multi-millionaire or not, like, because he sold that. And we were like, probably.
That's crazy.
Either it was Autobahn or like super cheap auto. It was one of the two.
Wow.
I was like,
Mental.
okay, good for you guys. Completely off topic, sorry.
But interesting.
But interesting. How much of design for you is about connecting with people?
I actually thought about this question because it was the one that I didn't know how to answer. But for me, it's actually split 50-50 in the sense of half of it is really important and then the other half of it is actually the opposite of important. It's equally as important to be your own person and to actually close your mind and your eyes from what's going on and be your own designer, but then also being very collaborative.
But knowing when to like also shut out that stuff.
Yeah, I think that probably sounds confusing, but a better way to put it is like in the half of that you actually have to close your eyes sometimes is that we do live in a time now where everyone is connected to everything. And it's really hard to actually like look on Tumblr or Pinterest or at an exhibition and then go home and do your own design. And it's the same with peers. It's like, it's actually really important sometimes to actually just close yourself off.
Completely. I feel like sometimes being more yourself makes other people relate to you more. Therefore, they connect with you instead of trying to be like other people and connect with them.
Yeah, because it is hard to stand out and be original. And I think, the reason I split it in half is that the other half, you can't have one without the other. You do need to be able to work with other people. It's actually, like when I got my first full-time job at MAP, it was like, I actually learnt that half of the job is about skill and the other half is who you are as a person.
Like sociability.
And if you're a good guy and you're an average designer, you'll get a very good job. But if you're a really good designer but you're a shit cunt, then you won't get the job. And I can already picture you in a studio. Hanging out.
Hey guys. Hey man, what's going on?
Hey bro. Design.
I just ripped some waves, bro. Let's fucking design, man. Shaka, bro. I'm thinking live laugh like Shaka on the fucking wall.
Amazing.
Okay. You have sold/shared your work both online and in person. Could you expand on the differences between operations with customers when in person versus online? I've bought from you online. I've also seen you at like rendition arts selling to people. For you, like, you know, from maybe a business point or just like whatever point you feel like answers the question, like how's it different as a designer, business holder, whatever?
It's very different. It's also a bit scary as well. I don't like talk. This is actually the first thing that I've done other than being actually there on the front line selling clothes. But I kind of actually want to keep Herman a bit. I don't want people to like know that it's me.
More mysterious. Right.
I don't think it's about me. I think when it's about the consumer, it's about them. It's not about the ego. But I do really enjoy meeting people that like my clothes. I enjoy it, but I find it pretty hectic sometimes. But like when you came into the store and you were interested in, you're a designer, I was like, that's fucking sick. Like I love talking to people that are also interested in something similar, and if I can help in any way, that's awesome.
We did get one of them as well. He's got it for my birthday like 2 months later.
Yeah, sick.
I always spot your stuff and I wear it to uni, and then some blokes will be like, oh, like this one guy, I can't remember his name, super long brown hair, mustache, gonna give surfer vibes.
Nice.
And he's just like, oh, Griffin's a sick cunt, isn't he? And I was like, yeah, he is. Do you know? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, that's really interesting. That's the blue puffer, because everyone spots it a mile away. And it's so exciting to be like, oh, you know, this is made by someone that did my degree. And that's the same for the magazine. It's a super easy way to translate what I'm doing. Because they're like, oh, this is like the possibility of it. You know, there's graphics and clothing and it's worn design.
Completely. And like you literally can do anything you want to do. And I just even think that to the point that you're at now, like you can literally finish and then experience, and then you could try to work at 3 different offices, and if it's not for you, then there's something else. But it's like what you've learned from that course is worth its weight in gold, and it's such a good degree to have.
Plan is to travel and kind of refine what I know by applying it to something other than the bubble that is Melbourne, because I love Melbourne.
It's a bubble, and I'm also feeling the same way about Herman. I mean, I love Melbourne, and I love my community, but
Japan's a good start.
yeah, or maybe like America or like Paris or something, or Germany. But
Yeah, it'd be interesting to get like for the oldies. I know old heads love made in USA anything. Like my dad always talks about like shirts they used to shill in high school, like screen printed stuff. And he's like, "Oh, we'd get the made in USA. That was the best quality stuff." And I was like,
always
"Oh, fair enough."
people love that. Yeah.
Someone in the creative sphere started using Uniqlo as their base tees for stuff, and I was like, you could start marketing your stuff saying like made in Japan, and people would go nuts for that. He's like, I didn't think about that. I'm like, it's Uniqlo. You just say it's made in Japan, even though you screen print it onto the thing that's made in Japan.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Do you believe you were able to have such a successful launch into fashion, or like where you're at right now, due to your design or graphic design background?
I don't think it's a successful launch
Yet.
I'm very
Soft launch, guys.
Yeah, I'm very hard on myself, and my parents are very hard on me as well. And then whenever I used to tell them that something good had happened, they'd always like remind me and say that, Griffin, you are tiny.
Griffin, your place that we're at right now speaks volumes to like. I'm assuming you curated the furniture and stuff for it.
Yeah.
This is hot. This is hot shit. This is hot and sexy shit.
I'm really happy with it, and I also know that it's hot shit because I love it.
It's the fact that it feels modular as well. The fact you can move the couches around and stuff. Because I love my space, but I get sick of it how it looks a little bit. Like, I love the furniture, but I want to move it around, and the fact that this allows that open space is nuts.
Completely. Well, what was the question? I totally forgot that.
Couldn't tell you. Couldn't fucking
It was
tell.
about something successful.
Oh yeah, do you believe you had a successful launch due to graphic design? You'd think it would have been harder if you'd maybe done something other than what you did at uni?
Well, completely, and I still think that there's a big void in my skill set when it comes to garment specs and more hands-on, like sort of technical design of fabrics and stuff like that. But I honestly think that if I had that skill, not the other one, then I would trade, because I think that the skill of being a designer and what I did learn at RMIT is the thing that makes me the most happy. And I think that that's the thing that is keeping me going. And it's also what I really, really like, have a good time doing. So
I think graphic design gives you like a running start at more than one thing. Whereas if you were to do a fashion thing, it gives you a big head start, but it's in like one direction.
Completely.
That's why, again, it's just graphic design is hot, and I love graphic design.
It is the best thing ever.
You can apply. I met tattoo artists, did our exact degree. I was getting a tattoo, and they were like, "Oh, what are you studying?" And I was like, "You had the same thing as me," which is nuts.
It's so interesting to meet people that are doing awesome things that are so like what you would have thought were very like disjointed from the degree, and it is incredible to see like the trajectory of what can be from such a broad course.
My tutor was telling me that one of their friends who did the same degree is now working in a zoo feeding elephants.
And that's so creative.
I was like, what?
And it's so creative.
The money from that funds their graphic design.
Yeah.
I was like, fair enough.
Yeah. I want to feed elephants for a job.
Yeah, that's what funds Herman, is elephants fund Herman.
If anyone out there knows how I can work part-time feeding elephants
feeder.
Yeah, whilst also doing trendy, pretentious clothing design, please help me out, because that's the dream.
Imagine the
situation.
The Instagram business handle just says elephant feeder
/ designer. And that is such a great thing to do.
It stops you in your fucking tracks.
Yeah.
You could do so. I'm just thinking you could do so many things centered around like mice and stuff, because everyone says they're scared of mice.
That's clever.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
That's clever.
Okay. How much of design is who you know, not what you know, from your experience?
It's tricky. It's I just think that's also kind of on the previous question about RMIT. I think that it's really important to go to uni to meet people, to make connections. And, you know, like, I think that was really important for me as well, because like a lot of the people that I work with now, they're people that I've just met through actually just like doing it, you know, and that's a really important part of the whole process as well.
I think if I stayed at uni, well, I'm at uni, but if I went to uni and just went to class and went home and didn't engage with like pop-up shops or go to events or meet people in music and like kind of stray out, and would treat those events not like a networking thing, but I would just try and like find people that I could talk to about stuff to like cover the anxiety of being at this event. I'd be like, oh, do you do this? Oh, I do. And then later on, it's like, oh, this has turned into like a mutual like connection, which I don't think you would, you know, it's super important.
It is so important. It's also really great here in Melbourne because a lot of people are like doing pretty amazing things in that sort of creative space. So I don't know. I also just think that where we are at like now with technology, there's a lot of good parts about being so connected with everyone. It's like, it's bad for our like health in the long run, just being so consumed by technology. But I think there's also, it is a tool for us, and it's connectivity and it's convenience, but just even being able to look at design and talk to any designer you want, even if they don't respond, which happens sometimes.
But you can reach out, yeah.
You can literally access anyone that you if you try hard enough.
Asked the first person I interviewed, who's like a painter more traditionally, about like AI and their opinion on AI, and they had a really interesting kind of take on it. They didn't like it. They don't like AI at all. They like it as a tool for other things. They want it away from creativity. I feel like it's
exactly no. I feel the exact same way about it. That's a good way of putting it.
Okay. This can be a short form, yes, no, or both. Would you define yourself more as a clothing designer, graphic designer, or both?
I don't know. I find it really hard with those
it's
labels.
You don't have to. You can
No, it's interesting. I don't know.
What do you feel like right now? It doesn't have to be like that's permanent. But right now, what do you feel like you're shifting towards?
I think it's just a designer.
Yeah.
And my like job description, like my role is graphic designer / product designer.
Nice.
So that's already too many words for me.
No.
I mean, like I want to call myself an artist because I think that's kind of who I am. But I think it's also talking to someone who isn't creative, that might be confusing, and that's more questions. I just think that I'm a creative person. That's great.
That's what I've referred to everyone as.
What do you do? I'm a creative person.
I just say sometimes like for this, I've referred to all the people as young creatives or just creatives. Like I'm a creative, and they'll be like, oh, what do you mean? Like I create stuff, like, and then here's some things I create. Here's some things I make. Some people are going to be like, that sounds obnoxious. Good, go away. If you find it obnoxious, I don't want to talk to you.
And I thought that was really clever when I was looking through your brief. And that's something that I wish I knew more. I wish I had that same understanding of being at uni, was instead of trying to just explain to people what you do, you just can actually say, this is it. And that's what this project is about.
Exactly.
And I think it's really clever, like how you're doing it, and the sort of way that you're trying to actually just like put design and what we do out there. And just say, because hearing words, that isn't design, and talking words, that isn't design, but
like the culmination of all of it.
Just putting everything there and just saying this is everything, because it's complicated, and it's like this is everything. I feel like that's a very like astute way of doing it.
It's been in the gears turning for a while. It can be quite taxing trying to talk to, you know, extended family and stuff about what you're doing, and they jump to like advertising. No. Marketing.
Architecture.
Yeah. Oh, like no.
Cryptocurrency and real estate.
I'll point to like a typeface. I'm like, I can do that, and then I'll point to like something there like on their top. I'm like, I could do that. I point to a book. I'm like, I've made books, and they're like, so like, what is it? And I'm like, it's all of this stuff. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to try and find a way to show you it. And so that's why I've got, you know, a photographer, someone doing clothing, someone doing music. If I could find someone, tattoo artist, I would. Completely forgot their Instagram handle. Wasn't going to reach out. And also, tattoo artists sometimes are a little bit scary.
They are.
A little bit scary. They're very cool, too cool for school sometimes. Not to say that you aren't, but this person in particular that's coming to mind is
frightening.
She's frightening. She's just, yeah. Okay, we're almost there. If you could pick your favorite brief, either with a client or self-appointed, walk us through like the design process, ideas, experiments, execution, follow-up. Even that can be uni or anything. Just for the people that kind of understand design and maybe don't walk through your design process from a brief.
Yeah, it's a hard one because I think what it was actually, I've just remembered. It was actually my first professional like freelance job out of uni, and I was designing coffee labels for this very sustainable coffee brand called Square Coffee, and it was a fucking nightmare.
Was it the...
Pardon my French, but yeah.
No.
It
Keep
was
it
very, very grim. What was your question?
Was it the coffee cups or the bags or the beans?
It's like the coffee bags, and there's like a sticker that extends over the top,
yeah.
and then you tear it, and
Yep.
it's all very technical packaging design. And it was almost one of the best experiences for me understanding about how real clients work.
And how tough it can be as well.
Yeah, because I did the process as I was taught to do at uni, which is the correct way, where you have a client catch up, you talk to them, you understand the vibe, what do you want to do, have some references. They provided me with very confusing references that were all different, and I said, oh, can we just pull a typeface from here, a color from here, a style from here?
Yeah.
And then I pitched them 3 ideas, and they picked one direction. I said, this is great. I designed it. They said it was awesome, but all of a sudden they wanted to change the design to something completely different. That wasn't any of the things that we had discussed.
From before.
And then we did that, and then, it's not quite what I was imagining, but it's like, when you talk to a clients that aren't designers will just, they have something in their head and they just expect you to know what that is. And it's really important to understand, like, how do you actually, from the start, control that, and how do you cancel out all those potential pathways of disaster. But disaster will happen, and it does happen, and that's what actually creates good design. But that experience for me was pretty like humbling, but also very like enlightening as to what it is like in the real world. Because RMIT,
Everyone gets it.
Yeah,
That's the thing.
like I'd pitch to Karen or Andy or whoever, and they were so eccentric and amazing and creative, and it made you feel really good about who you were, and it really helped you build your brand. But when you get into the real world, it's like people don't necessarily care about you like that.
I definitely feel like uni, and I try to tell myself this when I'm feeling crap, is this is the few times in my life where everyone that I'm surrounded by gets it, and I'm not going to have to explain myself to those people. And the moment I step out of it, I'm going to be probably spending a lot of time explaining why I do what I do or what I'm doing, clients included. So that's why I'm hoping with my first briefs and stuff that I do, and you probably learnt from that, is making briefs that speak like very plainly about what they're asking. I was listing off lists of things like that I would ask, and it was exactly what you were saying. And I was like, that's something that passively I feel like we've picked up from RMIT, which was like getting the references, having the console, saying, all right, color, type, okay, can I get references so I know what the fuck you're talking about?
Yeah, you always need to make it just so incredibly clear. And like, even if you think, oh, this is the right amount of preparation, like, or the right amount of questions to ask, you need to times that by 2, you need to actually like think beyond what you think beyond is, if that makes any sense. But
Doesn't need to.
yeah.
Don't panic. Okay, and the last one, your most challenging experience as a young designer, would you go back and change anything?
I think the most challenging experience is actually just being a creative person. It isn't easy, and it goes back to what I was saying about, people choose design because they think it's cool and it's fun, which it is, but it's also
very stressful. It's
also hard because you can't, like, the hardest thing for me and all my friends and family and everyone that is creative, and they have this same experience, but it's, you actually can't force yourself to be creative, and you can't work yourself to the point of exhaustion trying to get an idea or doing these things. You actually need to, it's a lot more of a process.
It's the downtime. I found the downtime,
Yeah.
especially during COVID, when you're locked in a box, which is your house, and you're forced to create stuff. you can't. You realize, especially first year, you realize very quickly you can't force stuff. You have to. It's the shower where you're not trying to think about uni, and it pops in. It's you wake up in the morning, and I'm like, wait, where's my phone? Notes app, and you quickly write something, and they tell you, "Oh, go for a walk," and you go for a walk with someone, and you just like yabba about something, and then the moment you speak it out loud instead of it just sitting in there, you're like, oh wait, and those feel amazing. I completely agree.
Yeah, it's really important that you don't force yourself to be creative, because if you burn out, there isn't anything you can do. You just have to wait for that creativity to build up again, because it's a different part of your brain. It's not like you're doing like a job typing into a spreadsheet. It's the opposite. There's actually something that needs to flourish, and there's this happy sort of chemistry that goes on when you do be creative. Like, for example, I had a week off, which was my designated Hermann week, because I'm very busy with other jobs to fuel my life. And I tried to design a collection in a week, and I was unable to do anything. And then one night I came home from work, and I designed 2 collections in a couple of hours. And it just happened, and it flowed, and it was a thing, but I didn't know it was going to happen. I actually had plans that night, but on my way home, I just started to think of all these ideas.
It didn't seem so scary. It was popping into your head.
Exactly.
Like, oh, I'll just do it.
And it isn't a scary thing. It's just, it's scary when you realize that it's a switch that you can't control. It just flickers on and off, and it's just how it is.
That's so funny. Yeah, I'm imagining my house electrics is really shit at the moment, and it's how I feel, honestly.
Just flickering
you
away.
turn one switch on, and then the other one, the fucking bathroom turns off. I'm like,
oh my God.
Okay, that's how I feel. That's it. That's like, you smashed that. Thank you.
Nice.
Until next time, thank you. Unless there's any... Oh, wait, no, this is part of it. Until next time, thank you so much, Griffin, for your time. Thank you, dude. Appreciate it.
Pleasure. Absolute pleasure. This
has been Don't Panic Magazine. I've been your host, Tristan Maloney. You can find me online, I guess, somewhere. And you can find Griffin on Instagram at Hermann Studios, or their website, or possibly during another pop-up in the future. There's only one camera. This camera, or this camera. Tell the people what you got going on. What's next? Oh my God. Do you have anything you want to share? Any last words?
I'm going to take over the whole entire world. It's going to be an empire. We're going to take over every country one at a time. And
Nightmare.
Australia, we're almost halfway. And then we're going to move on to the rest of the world. No, I'm not sure, to be honest. It's a scary question.
Yeah, what are you thinking about right now? Like, for what's going on?
I'm thinking about quitting my job and risking everything and taking Hermann full time. But I'm also thinking about being a responsible human being and working and paying off my mortgage. But I'm also thinking about, if I don't risk it for the biscuit, then if I keep just playing it safe, I'm going to regret that I didn't do this. Because I'm 23 and I just want to be able to do it.
That's fucked up. I literally just turned 24. What the fuck?
I thought we were the same age.
Apparently not. 99 kid.
I'm 99.
Yeah, well then we are the same age.
Yeah.
You haven't turned 24 yet?
No, I turned 24 in a week.
Happy birthday. Yeah, we are the same age. That's nuts. Yeah, I fucked around for 2 years and then started this degree and then extended it a year. So
It's all happening in its own time.
Yeah, I guess. I wish I got into it off the bat. We would have been the same.
Yeah, imagine if we were at uni together. That would have been crazy.
Well, that would have been... Look, let's not talk about it. It makes me sad. Yeah, man. That was nuts. Thank you so much.
Panic. Please panic.
Please panic. I am panicking. Cheers, guys. See you on the next episode with hopefully tomorrow. Maybe not tomorrow. We don't know. Ciao. Peace.
Ciao. Oh, thanks, man.
Dude, nuts.
Listen.